My inheritance has cost me. The car and gadgets are nice. And I've almost gotten used to the smell in the cave. It's the criminals. Since my father died, they've focused their attention on me.
Hey man, somebody killed this lady.
And the people around me. My father's enemies have gotten more twisted with age, more violent and suicidal.
Crashing this plane with no survivors.
Because they know their inevitable end is near. They've seen Batman die. They've seen each other die.
I can't believe they killed him. Yeah, man, things are getting really bad out here.
The Riddler.
This puzzle is far more than any mere game.
Dr. Death.
You and I go way back, Batman.
Two-Face.
I still believe in Harvey Dent.
All gone. Like the life I hoped for beyond this mask. Everything I have, everything I am, is because of him. I'm the Batman's daughter. I am the Huntress. And tonight, I'm hunting the man who destroyed my life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Huntress Podcast number 50. Today, we're going to talk about Helena Wayne's Huntress in this Justice League of America number 171. I'm Ashford, and along with me is Laurel. Hello, Laurel.
Hello, Ashford.
And we also have Diane with us on episode 50. Hello, Diane.
Hello, Ashford.
All right, so 50 episodes of the Huntress Podcast where we talk about the Helena Wayne's Huntress and the Helena Bertinelli's Huntress, respectively. We're on the evens, so that means we're going to talk about Helena Wayne and her adventures going forward. We're talking about episode 50. This is Justice League of America 171 by DC Comics, of course. This was back when they were at 75 Rockefeller Plaza, New York, New York. It has a cover date of October 1979. However, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, it was on sale July 5th, 1979. I was alive at this time. It came out monthly. Cover price, believe it or not, 40 cents for this action-packed, full-figured people book. I don't know what I meant by full figure, but like there's so many characters in this book. Page count 32, that's including the ads. We have editor Ross Andrew. The title is The Murderer Among Us, Crisis Above Earth 1. All right, this one is, and now is writer Jerry Conway. On pencils, we have Dick Dillon, inker Frank McLaughlin, letterer Ben Oda. On colors, Jerry Serp. And it was reprinted in Justice League of America 171 in 1979. And also Crisis on Multiple Earths, Volume 5, trade paperback in 2010. On the cover, we have Dick Dillon and inker Dick Giordano. Wow. I see this cover. It says, "This piece of metal holds the clue to the identity of his murderer." And that's the Flash saying that. And then we see Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. "If you don't find the answers, more superheroes will die." The JLA and JSA are back together again. Diane, what do you think about this cover?
Well, the first thing that really stands out is that there's a dead body right there in the middle of the cover. So obviously the dead body is covered in a sheet, but you've got both the JSA and the JLA looking on in shock. So you know that someone's going to die in this story, and you're wondering who's the mystery person that dies and why is everyone so shocked that he died, he or she, because we don't know at this point who the dead person is. But yeah, it's an immediate eye grabber. It's an immediate attention grabber because one dead body, JSA and JLA are looking on in horror. You're wondering what the heck happened.
Wow. Man, this is interesting. Laurel, what are your thoughts about this one?
I like it. I really like it. All the characters are reacting, and we've got, people, their hands up, or Superman has his fist clenched, and it's sort of like, everybody's having a reaction, and that's nice. With this many people it doesn't feel too cluttered, which is sort of an amazing feat. It looks like each character has this amount of personal space that you should have, if that makes sense. They're not just heads clumped together or something. The body proportion and all that kind of stuff, that really looks good. I really like this.
When I look at this cover, I immediately look at the Huntress. I think she stands out. When I was a kid, I was reading Beverly Clearly's books, and back then, books for children, it feels like a lot of them didn't, like the books now, they'll become movies, they'll stand the test of time, they'll go generations. I was reading a bunch of books where it was like here and there gone, like in those elementary years. So I wasn't reading comics. But if I saw this, I know I would have, like, my eyes would have gone towards Huntress. I think it's a lot like her face mask, how those two antennas or whatever go like extremely high up. I think that's interesting.
They do look more like antenna in this issue.
And what's crazy is that I really like her purple, but I never really considered myself a purple person. But now, especially with us doing this podcast, purple stands out more. But it's kind of amazing, like how I wasn't big on purple growing up through the years. But yeah, this is very interesting. And even though this is a death and they are shocked, it still looks like an innocent golden time. Where I think now, if this was drawn, or maybe like a decade and 3 years, it would look way more tragic, way more dark.
Yes,
maybe
I totally
more
agree with you.
sinister than melancholy. Yeah. So this still seems like, oh man, something bad happened, but it's okay, kid. You can open it up and read it. So, Diane, could you give us the synopsis to Justice League of America number 171, please?
Absolutely. The Justice League and Justice Society are attending their annual interdimensional meeting on the Justice League satellite orbiting above Earth 1. The meeting is being led by Zatanna, who has become the Justice League's chairwoman, and declares the meeting adjourned. Enjoying snacks and refreshments, the superhero teams socialize and get caught up in each other's lives. During the midst of all this, Terry Sloan, also known as Mr. Terrific, somewhat ominously informs the two Flashes, Jay Garrick and Barry Allen, that something is in fact wrong. Something he briefly brought up at the Justice Society meeting on Earth 2 prior. Terry catches up Jay and Barry on the happenings of his life prior to the meeting, informing the two Flashes of his encounter with the Spirit King at Gateway University, the same university Terry teaches in. There, the Spirit King broke into a lab and stole a very powerful device before Terry could get him. He managed to track the Spirit King to the Justice League satellite, which is the reason he joined the Justice Society for this particular meeting. Having said that, however, Terry refuses to disclose the Spirit King's location, hinting that he might actually be possessing the body of one of the heroes present. Terry departs without offering any further hints or details. In another corner of the Justice League satellite, the Earth 1 Bruce Wayne, Batman, is learning of the recent death of his Earth 2 counterpart from his Earth 2 daughter, Helena Wayne, the Huntress. The Huntress is still mourning her father's recent passing, and while the Earth 1 Batman is at disbelief at the recent news, he still offers his Earth 2 daughter support. Back in the main hall, the Justice League and Justice Society heroes continue to socialize when an explosion suddenly takes place. The explosion has happened within the satellite, leaving a hole in one of the satellite's walls. Superman, Dr. Fate, and the two Hawkmen immediately investigate, only to find the dead body of Terry Sloan amongst the space debris. They quickly repair the damage by melting and molding together nearby asteroids to form a new wall. With the heroes now out of immediate danger, they each try to theorize on Terry Sloan's cause of death. In his search throughout the satellite, Barry located an unidentifiable explosive device, one he has never encountered before in his career. Helena hypothesizes an alternative reason for the explosion, that it may have been an explosion, that it may not have been an explosion, but a case of a metal fatigue. Zatanna decides to try and determine the truth by magically extracting the device's memory. In doing so, however, the device somehow retaliates and leaves her comatose. Helena suggests searching the satellite to find the saboteur. which the two Flashes do in a second. They find no saboteur, and the Red Tornado similarly does not find any transporters to either Earths 1 or 2 in the satellite's system. After the satellite's computer system ran its diagnostic, the heroes learned Terry was murdered via strangulation and not the explosion, and that the explosion was done as a distraction. Without a saboteur present, the heroes conclude that there is a murderer amongst them, thus validating Terry's earlier concern. This concludes Justice League 171.
Mother, Mother, I feel sick. Send for the doctor. Quick, quick, quick.
Hey gang, it's Mark from the Social Distance Warrior Podcast. With everything that's going on right now, don't you wish you could just get away from it all? Like, far away?
It's the year 5,023,000,023. We're in the galaxy M87.
Yeah, I think that's far enough. Well, then tune into the Straight Outta Gallifrey podcast on the Right On Network. It's just what the doctor ordered.
Well, I suggest before we go outside and explore, let us clean ourselves out.
See, he gets it. And by he, I mean you. You know what I mean.
I am he, and he is me.
And we are all together, Gugu-Kichu?
Exactly. On Straight Outta Gallifrey, they'll cover every iteration of that Time Lord.
You may be a doctor, but I'm the doctor.
In addition to every other Time Lord in the Doctor Who universe. So tune in and escape into the world of Doctor Who.
The human race moves on, but so do the viruses. It's an ongoing war.
A little more upbeat, please.
Leaving is good. Never coming back is better.
That's more like it. Check out Straight Outta Gallifrey on RionNetwork.com and follow us on Twitter at SoGallifrey.
All right, well, we have quite the crew here. We've got the Justice League, Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, Flash, Hawkman, Zatanna, and Red Tornado. And the Justice Society, Power Girl, the Huntress, Green Lantern, Flash, Hawkman, Dr. Fate, and Mr. Terrific. So those are our cast of characters in this one. It was nice to see them all get together, and I think they did a good job of letting us have everybody getting a little bit of a moment, which was nice. And Ashford, I know you in particular enjoy the down times when we see that with superheroes.
I sure did. I thought they did an effective way of not info dumping, but just if you picked this book up because you saw this cast of characters, you thought it was interesting, they catch you up with them talking shop and, you know, so how's your new job? So you can see where these characters are in their respective books.
And Diane, what did you think when you first finished this one up? I'm sure that the Helena parts stuck out for you.
Well, I think that Helena had a pretty small role in this one, because the focus of this particular story is the mystery that Terry Sloane was hinting at. And the thing that I like most about this issue is that it does literally pick up that plot thread from the epilogue of the last Adventure Comics story that we covered for the JSA. And I like that they actually plant that mystery very early on, because now it kind of gives you something to focus on or something to look forward to as the story unfolds. But I did absolutely love the scene where Helena Wayne actually tells the Earth One Batman about her father's death, you know, because the thing is that Helena Wayne, although it feels like some time ago for us, the reader, for Helena Wayne, it wasn't that long ago that her father passed away. And so that was a complete shock to her. And then the reason that she learned for why he died, you know, he was basically his death was used as a distraction for another villain to carry on with his plans. You know, she's very upset about that. So she's both grieving and processing, you know, everything that happened, resulting. So yeah, she's in a place right now where she's grieving, she's processing everything that happened that led up to her father's demise. And so she's in a bit of a dark place. And so even though it's not affecting her work as the Huntress or as a member of the Justice Society, you know, when she's by herself, you know, that's when her grief really comes through, and that's basically what's happening here. So while everyone is socializing and getting caught up in each other's lives and finding out, hey, what have you been up to? What's the last case you worked on? You know, Helena just kind of moves away from the crowd there because she wants to be alone. You know, she's not really in the mood to socialize. You know, she's still processing what just happened in her life. She's processing the more recent traumatic event in her life. And this is when, the Earth One Batman realizes, hey, something must be wrong here, so let me go find out what it is. And so he goes to comfort Helena, and this is when he actually learns that his Earth 2 counterpart had recently passed away. And for Bruce, while his pain is not going to be the same as Helena's because this was her father that died, at the same time he's reconciling with the reality of, what, this person was me on another Earth, and he died, which means that, I mean, I guess you could say he was reminded of his mortality here, and as the one member of the Justice League who doesn't have any superpowers or super strength or, along the kind of life longevity that some of his, other friends might have, it suddenly becomes very real to him what his mortality entails, because the thing is that the Earth 2 Bruce Wayne, he went down fighting as Batman, and for Bruce Wayne, the Earth 1 Bruce, although he's a much younger man, that reality is still, that possibility is still very real for him. So he's in a place of, okay, I need to comfort my Earth 2 daughter, but at the same time, I need to think about, where my life is headed, because what happened to the Earth 1 Bruce what happened to the Earth 2 Bruce can just very easily happen to me at any given moment. So, and I think this is when Bruce Wayne starts making, life changes, during the Bronze Age era of his Detective Comics and Batman books. This is when he starts dating women like Silver St. Cloud. So I would like to argue that maybe in finding out, what happened to his Earth 2 counterpart, that starts to make him reconsider how he's living his life, and that's when he starts pursuing, new relationships with people, whether that be Silver St. Cloud, Vicky Vale, Talia, Al Ghul, and at one point even Selena Kyle. So I think the Earth 1 Bruce is starting to realize, what am I doing with my life? I need to do something. I don't want to just suddenly die, and all that my life has been Batman. So yeah, I think the death of the Earth 2 Bruce is affecting both Helena and Bruce, but for very different reasons.
Well, I definitely liked this scene. I think it was well handled. There is just, he puts his hand on her shoulder and he's like, they were closer than brothers in a way, he says. And Helena does call him Uncle Bruce, which I thought was sweet. That was a nice way to make that connection without, it's almost like having a twin brother. I think that kind of closeness of relationship. So for her to have to come to him for, she asks basically for a hug, and it's just sad, but yet he handles it well. It's not the standoffish Batman that just, get over it kind of guy or is too stiff or anything. He's very emotive in this. The art really works. It is a little bit odd. I don't know if y'all noticed this. When she's talking to him and she says she almost didn't come to the meeting this year. It's the lower left panel. It almost looks like they're going to kiss each other. But she's calling him Uncle Bruce, so my little brain was like, wait, what? And then I thought, okay, I'm just seeing something that's not supposed to be there. Because that was really weird when I saw that. I'm like, what are they doing? But once you read it, you realize how sweet it is, the affection between them, which you figure was built up over this time because she's seen him, how many times? Do you know, Diane, how many times has she been? Did they ever get into that? Because I know we saw her meet him one other time when she came to talk to him about being the Huntress. Has she talked to him anywhere else besides this?
This is actually her third meeting with the Earth 1 Bruce, because the first time that she met him, it was in that Batman family story where she teamed up with Batgirl and Batwoman, and they fought Poison Ivy and Catwoman. And then the second time that she saw the Earth 1 Bruce, it was in a JSA and JLA meeting, which is the last Justice League story that we covered. So this is her third meeting with Bruce, or the Earth 1 Bruce. And so she's only met with the Earth 1 Bruce twice prior to this. And so she almost didn't come to the JSA, JLA meeting, I think in part because she knew she was going to run into the younger version of her father. And she just recently lost her father. So I think it took quite a lot of strength for her to come to the JLA, JSA meeting, knowing that the Earth 1 version of her father was going to be there, and that was probably going to bring up lots of raw emotions in her that she probably didn't want to show the rest of the team. So
Oh,
I think that's why she kind of walked away from the action there, and she walked away from the crowd to be alone. And I guess Bruce noticed something was wrong, and so he followed her there.
Well, I definitely cannot imagine trying to do this. Meet the younger version of your parent that is gone. That would just be really hard to do. So lots of respect there for our Helena Wayne. Ashford, what did you think about this scene? We've been talking about Batman and Huntress here.
It's working well. It's very cinematic if you look at the panels. Some of the faces are really well drawn. And then just this last panel where it's the satellite era and we see them out the window and the Earth is in the foreground, background. It feels like Star Wars.
Oh.
Well, a poignant moment.
Mm-hmm. I see what you mean. Yeah, it is very poignant. It does make a difference because it just makes this scene. I don't know. It really does make this scene, doesn't it? I don't know how to express it, but you're right.
Yeah, it seems cinematic. This whole scene feels very cinematic.
I like it. I like that they're letting the emotions come up, that we're not just comparing notes and, hey, he's died. I like that they're letting her cry because, she does, she's got tears. She's crying. And I like that they did that, put that little bit of personality in here. We were saying, the other characters get to show their personalities too. So I was really glad that they tucked this in here.
Another thing too on some of these panels, I say this with Nicola Scott's art, it really looks like someone is wearing a mask and there's flesh underneath the mask part, not just paint. And I guess it's the middle panel and the middle row of panels, with Helena and she's crying through it. It really does look like this is a person wearing a mask and crying through the mask. So, well done.
Definitely. Then we've got, I'm going to just skip to the next Helena bit here, and then we can come back and discuss the rest of the story. She does get completely accepted as part of this group, as part of the detective kind of group of things, which I thought was really cool. The last time we had Elongated Man, I think, giving her a little bit of a hard time, and she had to sort of really give him the what for in a way. She had some sort of put down, I remember we were talking about. So I was really glad to see her as full-fledged member here. That, yeah, she has these emotions and she's upset, but here she is being a competent person and absolutely respected part of this team. Diane, I'm assuming you would agree with that.
And so what was the thing again?
That she's a completely accepted part of this team. That, she went from being crying to doing her job and was very effective at it and very accepted.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that point. I think she just needed that moment to herself, to grieve and let her emotions out. Because the thing is that, like I said, she just recently lost her father. So, and the Earth One version of her dad is right there. So I guess she needed that moment herself to not only let her emotions run raw for a moment there, but also to recollect herself. Because by the time she rejoins the group, and the thing that happens, she's able to actually put a full focus on that. So yeah, I do agree with that point, that she's immediately, accepted back into the group and no questions are asked, and, they just carry on.
Mm-hmm. And I like that they're respecting her opinions. I mean, here's Barry Allen from Earth One, and you figure she's a young person that's new to these teams, and yet, he's completely listening to her ideas. What does she have to think about this?
Yeah, I think that, the thing is that, so everyone is thinking the same thing right now. Everyone is thinking, oh, the satellite exploded, and that's what killed Mr. Terrific. And so they're trying to find out, that everyone's thinking right now, okay, there has to be a murderer on the satellite here, but then they are not able to find a single murderer. They're not able to find an intruder or any saboteur amongst them, right? And so she's thinking, okay, so let's think of an alternative reason for what happened. Maybe the satellite needs maintenance. Maybe the wall, came off because, of rotting metal or something, So, yeah, she's very much, she's trying to consider all the possibilities. So Helena Wayne is not dismissing that, that someone could have probably blown off the wall there, but she's trying to consider other possibilities for what happened, So she's thinking in her mind, okay, yes, that's one possibility. Someone blew up the wall, or it's possible that maybe the satellite was not being very well maintained, and so the explosion happened as a result of lack of maintenance. So she's trying to think in her mind all of the different possibilities, which, yes, so she's thinking of all the different possibilities in her mind. She doesn't want to stick to one hypothesis. She wants to consider all her options, which makes her a lot like Batman. It makes her a lot like her father. Think of all the possibilities, don't just fixate on one, because if you fixate on one, you could miss out on all the other clues and all the other details. So I think she's trying to keep an open mind for exactly that reason.
Ashford, what do you think of our detective here?
I love it. I like, what we're talking about as far as the writers giving her space to do this and for her to be distinctive. So if you follow this book for any other reason, because this is in Justice League of America, so if you're not up to snuff on what's going on in Earth 2 world, or specifically the Huntress, I think as a reader, you're getting out of, okay, so she's a detective. This is her worth. That's why she's here. And, there's a lot of times we'll see a team book and just people are in the background. And, you just kind of understand, well, I guess they just didn't have room for them. But I feel like there are enough moments in here where we see her vulnerable as a real person. We get some backstory, but we see her professionally as well. In a team book like this, I think, all right.
Yeah, it's nice to see the character get the space to have multiple things going on, like you were just saying. Let's go ahead and address the rest of the plot, if we can. I think, Diane, you had some thoughts on the whole Mr. Terrific part of this?
Yes, so it's kind of interesting how they execute the Mr. Terrific plot, because like I said, they're actually picking up on a plot thread that was first introduced in the epilogue of the Lost Adventure comics story that we had for the JSA, and so they immediately pick up on that. And so the thing is that Mr. Terrific, the way that he conveys to both Jay and and Barry Allen, the Flash, the way that he conveys that, I know that the Spirit King, so we at least know whom he's tracking. He's tracking the Spirit King, and the Spirit King, I think, is known to possess bodies, right? And so he knows that he's there somewhere and that he's possessing the body of one of the members, but we don't know which one. So it kind of really begs the question of, does he know whose body he is possessing if he's only telling Jay and Barry and not anyone else?
Power Girl was standing there too.
Well, yeah, you've got Superman and Power Girl. They've got super hearing, so they can actually hear what's going on. But what I'm trying to say is that he's only conveying this information to Jay and Barry. So
no, she's standing right there in the frame.
Oh, is she?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
I almost thought he was talking directly to her.
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean.
And that next panel, the close-up of his face is absolutely gorgeous. Let me just throw that in there. I'm sorry. Just the art on that. He looks crazy. And I thought, well, maybe he's the one possessed because those blue eyes. It was like, good Lord, he looks a little crazy. He is really, really wanting to go after this villain. I'm sorry, just Spirit King. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were telling us about he's just telling these few people.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm on the page now where you're pointing out that Power Girl is actually in that panel. She's kind of right there on the edge there. But yeah, so Mr. Terrific's only conveying this information to the two Flashes, right? And then Power Girl, finds out as well what's going on. But I'm noticing that he's not really telling the entire team or letting both teams know what's going on. He's only telling select members. So that tells us that the Spirit King might be possessing the body of one of either the JSA hero, one of the JSA heroes, or one of the Justice League heroes. And so it kind of makes you wonder, if he trusts Barry Jay and Power Girl, with this information, then who amongst the JSA, might be possessed, I'm pretty sure it's not Helena Wayne, because, Helena Wayne is grieving the death of her father, and it's very authentic in the way that she's mourning his loss. And we know it's not Bruce, because he's actually comforting her. So that kind of rules out, it rules them out at least as potential suspects. So it kind of makes you wonder who there might the Spirit King be. Could it be Satana? And maybe that's why, looking into the metal, knocked her out. Or could it be, one of the Hawkmen? Could it be Red Tornado? Could it be anyone? Because the thing is, the Red Tornado said, I found nothing in the system, So there are plenty of suspects there, especially in the story. So you're left wondering who could
I have
it be?
A question for you. Do you have an opinion on why he didn't tell them who it was? Because when he leaves, he's like, I can't tell you yet. And I was like, does he know? Because we have two of each, I want to say flavor. We've got two Green Lanterns, we've got two Hawkmen. Did he not know which one of these were? Or do you think he knew who it was and just didn't want to say?
I think he knew who it was, but didn't feel like anyone that was ready to hear who that could be.
Okay.
Because the thing is that if the Spirit King is possessing any one of the heroes from the Justice League or Justice Society, right? The thing is that they're all friends, and for him to say, hey, Alan Scott, for example, I think he's possessed by the Spirit King. They would have to attack Alan Scott to get the Spirit King out, and they probably don't want to have to think about that,
Ashford, what'd you think of the Mr. Terrific plot here?
I think it's interesting because I always want to read more about Terry Sloan, but just this whole thing of we're dealing with the villain of the Spirit King, and he could be possessing any one of these. I think this is, and they're on the Watchtower. So at the end where Superman is like, there's no one else here, it could only be us. I'm like, we have some good Agatha Christie stuff going on here.
Superhero Agatha Christie, I like it.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's a Spirit King on the JLA Watchtower Express.
Well, it could be the Spirit King with the metal doodad in the power room. Yeah, I really like this, and I am not as familiar with the Satellite era Justice League, and I gotta say, just as much as this Helena Wayne reading has exposed me to more Justice Society and made me want to read more of that, I have to say this issue made me want to read more Justice Society of America. I like these characters, I like the interactions, I really enjoyed this book, the art was spectacular, I just really got a kick out of it. Diane, do you have more you want to tell us about?
Oh no, I think that's very much all that this, issue goes into. The thing is that there are really three things that happen in this issue. We've got the JSA and the JLA meeting, not expecting any trouble, right? But trouble seems to always find them. And I guess that makes sense. You cannot just have an issue of Justice League where you just have the JSA and the JLA, sitting around talking to each other and catching up on each other's lives, because it's probably not what the reader wants. We're taking into account that the readers here, the ages are going to range from anywhere from 8 years old to maybe 14 years old. They want to see action, right? So they cannot just have the JSA and the JLA just sitting there having a good time like normal people. They need to have something happen in order to get them to act like the superheroes who want to see them as. So they do that explosion. So I guess the only thing that we can talk about is all the theories that are being thrown around as to what really happened. So when we get to the end of this issue, we learn that Mr. Terrific died of strangulation. He was not killed in the explosion, but the explosion was done to create a distraction. So who do you think in the Justice League or Justice Society has the power to create an incendiary device, to blow up, a massive wall in a satellite?
Well, it could be just who has power, because Barry here says he has experience with explosives. Our wall was blown up all right, but not by any explosive I've ever seen. So that's when Helena starts giving alternate thoughts, metal fatigue or this, that, or the other thing. So that put my brain at the end when he says one of us is a murderer, Superman. And that put my brain in, well, then who has the power to make that wall blow out?
Well, but notice too that Barry Allen says that he has never seen that incendiary device before, so that could mean one of two things. Either he's lying, or he's knows something.
Yeah, I didn't think about the lying. Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah, because the thing is that, okay, so he has never seen an incendiary device like that before, but here's the thing. He's both the Flash and a CSI investigator. He's a CSI person, right? He has seen all kinds of things, So he's not entirely new to the idea of, beyond human capacity device existing. So the fact that he says, I have never seen this before, wouldn't that be a bit suspicious, especially for someone who is a superhero and is also CSI? So, and notice that Barry said that, I have never seen this in my career as a CSI, but you're also the Flash. Notice how he doesn't acknowledge that I'm the Flash part. So that could kind of, I think the writer is possibly, kind of hinting that maybe it could be Barry. We're not saying that it's absolutely Barry, but it could be Barry, who is possessed by the Spirit King, because he knew exactly where to find that incendiary device.
I do have one thing I completely forgot I wanted to ask you guys. This bit with Dr. Fate telling the Earth 1 Hawkman that Kent Nelson does not exist when he has the helmet on. It's a completely separate personality. Diane, you're the one with more experience reading these. Is that something that came up in the Earth 2 Justice Society stories, or is that a new thing introduced here?
I think that was always the concept going as far back as the Golden Age, because the thing is that whenever it goes back to what I said in one of the earlier episodes of this podcast, that whenever Kent Nelson puts on the helmet, Kent Nelson ends up on the passenger seat and Naboo takes over the driver's seat, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not that Kent Nelson completely goes away. It's just Kent Nelson kind of becomes a bystander when Naboo takes over. So
I sort of chalked that up into your theory category. I'm like, well, maybe, Dr. Fate is crazy. And he did it. Ashford, you got any more notes or things you want to add on here?
No, I think we about covered it, but I just like this whole, when I read it the first time, I didn't really think about just this whole mystery aspect. So I like the fact that we're dealing with superhero comic stuff. It's a little bit of a thriller, but we're dealing with the genuine murder mystery.
And it was so nice and peaceful earlier in the story. I really, they just never have good luck at these things, do they?
No. So, and in this satellite era, what we're reading now, did they say that Zatanna is the chairperson?
I think she was the chairperson for the meeting.
Okay.
Because she says, as chairperson of the joint conference.
Ah, okay, yes. And I never seen this outfit before, so this was interesting as well.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'd never seen it either.
And I forgot to mention this, that we did receive feedback when we covered on episode 48, Adventure Comics 465, and someone named Doppelganger, which is interesting because we're dealing with doppelgangers in this issue. It says, I thought Hawkman was the leader of the Justice Society. So I don't know if we reference someone else being the leader.
Well, I think it passed from person to person over time, because when they did the JSA versus America versus the JSA there, the Justice Society, he was sort of like running that as the chairperson, but as they were talking, I think he came and went, if that makes sense, as chairperson. That was the impression I got. But of course, that issue takes place, how long from when we're reading this? Because that one is towards the end of the run, right?
Right.
So maybe it wasn't clear.
Well, hey, that's all we have this time. What did you guys think about this? Do you remember the satellite era? Have you enjoyed going back and rereading it? Was this your favorite run of? Is this real JLA to you? Let us know what you think. Write to us at the Huntress Podcast.com. When we do episode number 51, we will go back to Helena Bertinelli and we'll talk about Showcase 93, number 10, October 1993. Isn't that something? You can also write to us on Twitter at Huntress Podcast. We would enjoy that tremendously. Laurel, are you doing any pod crashing or any projects?
Well, I was on a month or so back, I think it came out, where I was on Super Friends. There is a For All Mankind that's on the Fire and Water Podcast Network, and I got to discuss one of the comics that goes along with that TV show. So that was a lot of fun.
Excellent. That's already posted?
Yes. I think it came out, I'm thinking last month. I think that would have been March. I'm trying to remember if it was February or March, but it's right in there somewhere.
Yeah, so you guys go ahead and shoot over to the Fire and Water Podcast Network to hear Laurel talk about some Super Friends, which you did today, right?
Yes, that was why I sort of laughed, because I'm thinking, man, I'm doing it again.
You're the Justice League one. And then, Diane, you working on any future projects?
Right now, right now, in addition to the work that I'm doing at CBR, I'm also looking to launch a few projects for my Patreon. So I've got I want to start, posting, video analyses of, comics and manga that I've been reading. So I've kind of started working on the scripts for 3 of the videos. And right now I'm actually, reviewing, DC films. And I even asked, so I recently posted my reviews for Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I recently posted my review of Aquaman, the 2018 film. So both of those are currently up on my Patreon. They're going to be public for a while, but then eventually they'll go back to being tiered posts. So I'm kind of doing this thing where, when I do a movie review, especially for a new DC movie, I'll have the review public for a month, and then after a month it becomes a $1 tier post and stuff like that. So, and with television shows like Stargirl, I'm going to be doing something similar. I will be doing, whenever I do a review for an episode, it will be up for a week, it'll be public for a week, and then it'll be a paid post as soon as the next episode comes up. So yeah, I'm kind of trying something new with Patreon, to try and get more subscribers. And of course, I'm also working on the other tier projects. So I've got, a video series called Sessions that I'm working on, where I do analysis that will be the $5 tier, and then the $10 tier is the mature content stuff. So yeah, I'm slowly building towards, I'm slowly working on my Patreon to, give people the most for their money. I've got 6 subscribers right now. So the goal is to give them their money's worth, and also to, attract more people. So that's what I'm kind of working on, in addition to what I do on the Helena Wayne Huntress blog and what I do at CBR. That's where I'm kind of focusing my energies right now.
Can I just add one more plug?
Yes.
You guys should watch this too. It's called Batman City of Scars. It is a fan film. And I was on Fan Film Fridays. That's how I got to discuss that with Clinton Robson. And I can't recommend that enough. It's Bat in the Sun, I think it's the name of the production company. Absolutely incredible stuff. So for plugging things here, I'm like, man, y'all need to watch that, and then listen to us on Fan Film Fridays back in February. That was extraordinary.
And speaking of plugging in Patreon subscribers, I'm going to plug away. I want to give thanks to K-Say out there. Also, Alan W. Wright. You can follow him at Bold Outlaw on Twitter, or go to boldoutlaw.com. He's a Robin Hood enthusiast and more. To DJ Sims, DJ Merck. You listen to his music right now. We have the Pod Crasher Tim Price. Thanks a lot. We have Mark Ross, aka Cluck Trent, as well as Mark Blair. We thank you. And we talked about the Fire and Water podcast a little bit earlier. I want to thank Rob Kelly for being a Patreon subscriber. and to Paul Hicks, podcaster of DCOCD, Waiting for Doom, and The Gary Show. I want to thank you guys a lot because we're trying to put out as much content as possible on the Right On Network. We even have a new podcast straight out of the Federation, a Blake 7 podcast. I've been smiling from ear to ear for like a good month and a couple of days because of this, because I've been wanting to talk some Blake 7 since 2014, and I finally just ripped the band-aid off, as it were, and here we are. So if you like British sci-fi from 1978 to 1982, you want to see a band of, could they be thieves? Could they be liberators? Who knows? Some amoral or maybe just moral but slightly askewed cast of characters. Check out Straight Out of the Federation of Blake 7 podcast. But please come back and listen to us talk Huntress Talk at thehuntress podcast.com. Till next time. Cheers.